Another day of no Juan Soto, and it is absolutely no problem for this New York Metropolitan offense. How we doing, everybody? It's Wardy here. We're back at it with our late night, another West Coast edition, breaking down on the East Coast edition of our New York Mets postgame show, presented by SeatGeek and PrizePicks, that we will get into shortly. Our amazing sponsors, and everybody talk about a big blowout victory. The Mets bats came to play early and often against the young right-hander of the San Francisco Giants. We're going to get into Mark Vientos playing like a man possessed, batting roughly 500 more starts and rightfully deserved, as Mark Vientos is looking more and more like the man who broke out a year and a half ago. We're going to get into Clay Holmes absolutely dominating start to finish, helping the Mets in the shutout performance against the San Francisco Giants, the first Mets starter this season to give the Mets 7 dominant innings. For what we're paying, oh my goodness gracious, what a bang for your buck. We're going to get into Clay, Vientos, Bo Bichette, top to bottom, 1 through 9, all the key takeaways, and this amazing blowout 9-0 victory for the Mets. And since Juan Soto rounded second, got to third yesterday with injury, the Mets have essentially put up north of 18 runs, if not just under there, without Juan Soto. Again, it is not a problem. Spam those W's on your way, and let's get the hype going. Let's get the love going. How we feeling this evening? The New York Mets are doing themselves a lot of favors now on a little bit of a win skid, back-to-back wins. We'll take that. So not a skid, but actually something positive. After snapping their 3-game losing streak on this road trip, a lot of positive takeaways, everybody. As you guys and gals can see right now, we're going to get into, again, Clay Holmes. What was so brilliant about him today, going 7 masterful innings. Tobias Myers doing his job in the back of this Mets bullpen. Again, it's a surprise to absolutely nobody. On the offensive end, again, so much fantastic outing that you saw from a Mets lineup that had no Luis Robert, no Francisco Alvarez, no Juan Soto, no problem. Tyrone Taylor stepping up, Brett Beatty being productive in right field, Mark Vientos making gorgeous scoops, so you're getting more than just the offense out of him. So much went right for the Mets, and not only today's game, but their back-to-back victories here in San Francisco. So, folks, let's let it rip as we always do after every big victory throughout the course of the 162. Let's get into it with the one, the only, the official, yes, you guessed it, post-game jingle, baby. Let's do this. Yeah.
Postgame. Postgame. Calling all Met fans, come and join us now. Talk about this game and gonna break it down. It's Mets Postgame.
Shout out to Greg and Jordan, as always, with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. It's a nice little dancey dance. That's a tradition we've been doing for a couple of years now on the platform, and we do that after every big victory throughout the 162 and postseason play. Folks, before we hop into this one, continue to spam those W's in the live chat. Let me know your initial thoughts, reactions, and who is your Mets player of the game? Are you going with Clay Holmes? Are you going with Mark Vientos? Are you going with Bo Bichette? Are you going with Tyrone Taylor? Whatever your thoughts are, spam them in the live chat. Let us know in the comments down below, everybody. And again, shout out to our amazing sponsor today, that being that PrizePicks, that has you covered for all things here in sports fantasy. When it comes to building lineups, picking more or less, there is nobody greater here than our friends at PrizePicks. And as you guys can see beside me, if it wasn't for Cal Riley not doing his thing for the Mariners tonight, this would have been a fantastic play. 2 out of our 3 in this lineup were in fact proficient. We got Mark Vientos having more than at least 1 hit. We got exactly that, so you're getting more on 0.5, I should say. He got that 1 hit. He got multiple hits. Mark Vientos with a 3-hit day. Bo Bichette, who I felt really confident going in, was going to have another RBI for the Mets, if not another extra base hit. He was able to do that with that nice RBI knock up the middle early in this ball game, everybody. So when it comes to fun plays, obviously, and building your fun lineups can be very team-oriented. No one has you more covered than our amazing friends here at PrizePicks. So in case you guys have not done so already, please make sure to check them out today and join the millions of users and sign up to America's #1 sports pick app for daily fantasy player projections and lineups. So what do you guys got to do? Download the PrizePicks app today and use our promo code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. All right, guys, thank you so much for hearing them out. Shout out to SeatGeek that you guys know. Save some dough. Use the promo code WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase. Link down below for all things Mets all season long or anything and the entertainment/sports space for all your ticketing needs. Steve with a $5 haul. Thank you, my friend. Great member says, since JD Martinez was hired, Mark Vientos is batting 6 for 13 at the plate. Tyrone Taylor currently has more RBIs than Pete Alonso, and how about the pitching staff? I like that you threw in the little dig on Pete just for the fans out there that are kicking and screaming and crying that Alonso is not a Met, and it's going to be completely to the Mets' detriment. Listen, I will always love Pete, and I will always support him, especially on a team that I don't dislike, and the Orioles. But what's also true is that the New York Mets moved on, and we have to move on too as fans. It's nice to see Tyrone Taylor have his big day today off the bench, mind you, so that itself was fantastic. And JDM, the first thing that I thought of again when JD was hired by the Mets a couple days ago was him putting his arm right around Mark Vientos when he was officially signed late into spring of 2024. And to see how that bond not only grew into a Mark Vientos blossoming in his true rookie season in 2024, being Mr. Clutch King for the Mets outside of Francisco Lindor and Mr. OMG and Jose Iglesias, to hear Mark Vientos say verbatim to media after JDM returned over the past couple days saying, I view him like a big brother. How is that not going to bode well for Mark Vientos, especially after knowing Mark's remarks that he shared with the media leading to last year's trade deadline, saying verbatim to everybody that, I'm really not getting the help that maybe I need. No one's really guiding me in the right direction, essentially. So again, putting not necessarily shade, but being completely blunt when it comes to the coaching staff and how they're approaching Vientos last year and why there are many people believing that Mark was going to be out of the organization. And how crazy and fitting is it that after the Chicago White Sox say no to a Mark Vientos offer for Luis Robert this past offseason by the New York Mets, they settle on Luis Angel Acuna. Vientos finds himself getting starting opportunities between Polanco's inconsistencies with his health, which I think the Mets should throw on the IL. I think that they're only going to be causing a greater issue. Polanco should not be playing through injury. That has been a detriment to him in his career. But Vientos facing righties and lefties, taking complete advantage, heading with authority, heading with confidence, and most importantly, heading with comfortability. Nothing about Vientos' approach at the plate right now should have you discern or concern as a fan in general. He looks like he's actually locked in, and he's playing loose, he's playing fun, and that is exactly what you were hoping to get from a Mark Vientos when he could start to run with his opportunities this season. Scott, thank you so much for the donation. My man has a tough call. Let's see, is Clay Holmes. Agree. Yeah, no, Clay Holmes as the player of the game. It's hard to not pick Clay Holmes because Clay Holmes did something that's such a rarity for us Mets fans, and that is to see a starter give you 7 quality innings of work, let alone 6 shutout innings. I mean, I don't remember the last time the New York Mets got 7 shutout innings. Honestly, if I said 6, I meant to say 7. Pause. Literally, last season, did any Mets starter go 7 shutout innings? Maybe David Pearson in the first half, because I know he had at least like one start of going like 8 innings. I know McClain had one really, really good one too, where he went a bit deep. I don't recall exactly the last time the Mets had a starter to go 7 dominant to this degree, but that's all the more reason as to why it's so great to see him step up the way that he is. So shout out again to Clay Holmes for doing his job tonight, to say the least, and shout out to this Mets offense that simply came to play. In case you guys don't know how damn good the Mets offense was tonight, they out-hit the San Francisco Giants 12-3, and this was after scoring 10 runs yesterday. The Mets have put up 22 runs in a 24-inning span. So you know how we were kicking and screaming and crying about the early offensive woes? All it takes is a nice West Coast trip against a San Francisco Giants team that has bad fundies, not great pitching, and a lot that is not in unison for them yet this season, for a hungry Mets team to now take advantage of. And talking about it, everybody, let's now go ahead and break it down. Thank you so much for the donation. I will get into that after we break down this ball game, everybody. Let's rapid fire this one. We got a lot of positives to get into. It's always a great night. It's Saturday night to be talking Mets baseball. If you guys watch the latest UFC card as well, then you know that Ethan Ewing is the future in the UFC. And yes, AJ Ewing had a big day today. Mets top outfield prospect that you saw dominate already for the Rumble Ponies. We're going to talk a lot more about him, especially with Juan Soto's status up to the year. We have positive news on Soto. He's avoiding the IL for now, but he may be added onto it by the time we get to Tuesday next week. So as of now, it's a day-by-day thing, so could have been 10 times worse. But the reason why we mentioned Ewing today is because I told you guys on X, I'm going to mention some UFC takes because it was happening the same time as the Mets game tonight. And I just have to say this one thing, so please don't be bothered by the tangent. If you're a fight fan, you'll understand. Ethan Ewing took his UFC debut fight on essentially a 48 to 72 hour notice back in November of last year at the Madison Square Garden card, in which I was in attendance of, my first ever UFC card. And Ewing beat one of the top high rising prospects in his weight class while winning a title the week prior in a different smaller promotion, and then going back to his construction job after the fact. I mean, literally absolute badass. Ethan Ewing just had his second career UFC fight tonight, and he absolutely dog walked the guy. I mean, he mowed him down from start to finish, pieced him up, and I love every single thing about the kid. So if you guys don't know Ethan Ewing, if you're a fight fan, check him out. If the guy has the last name Ewing in general, you should be intrigued as a Mets fan with AJ, but now with Ethan from the fight game, you love to see it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now let's go ahead and break down this ball game, shall we? And it begins here in the first inning, where again, the New York Mets actually got no offense to start. I mean, the side was struck out to begin the ball game, okay? It wasn't a game like yesterday or days prior where the Mets had the offense right away. It was one of those things that gradually came after Roop, or however we pronounce the young right-hander's name for the San Francisco Giants, got off to a quick early start against this Mets team. You know, from Lindor to Bichette to Polanco, what do they have in common? They all go ahead and they strike out. So Mets struck out the side in a bad way. In the bottom of the first, Clay Holmes gives up a leadoff walk, and in the same game that Clay Holmes gives up a leadoff walk, he goes 7 shutout innings for the New York Mets. Clearly, he was doing something right. Awesome. Rafael Devers lines out that we saw Heliot Ramos with a strikeout, and Clay Holmes looking good early there, as that strikeout was a beautifully pieced up sweeper that just got him to bite big time. I mean, it wasn't even close to the zone, so we take that, and then Luis Arraez popped out, second as many days that Arraez has popped out in the infield. That's something that you don't see often. And again, this is why I'm not a Luis Arraez fan. If Arraez does not have contact ability for you, he brings nothing as a positive as a player. He's a net negative defensive player in multiple positions that he plays. He's not an elite base runner, and he's strictly a high contact guy. If that contact ability loses itself, i.e. Jeff McNeil from the past number of years, the value in that player also diminishes, especially if while they have defensive versatility, it doesn't mean they're proficient as a defender, whatever position that they're playing. Arraez got exposed yet again by the Mets in this one, which is encouraging because the Mets have been pieced up by Arraez in many years, especially during his peak prime days with the Miami Marlins. In the top of the second, Brett Baty struck out swinging, but my dog would bounce back. He got the start in right field today. And what did Brett Baty and Mark Vientos have in common today, outside of being very productive with the bats, especially Vientos, obviously? It's the defense. I mean, Brett Baty looks so comfortable in right field, like he's been playing there his whole career. Mark Vientos is continuing to make strides defensively that, truthfully, from how spring training was looking and what we were hearing reported, it was hard to see a world where Mark Vientos was going to go ahead and make himself known with the glove and with the web gems, but he's went out and proved everyone, including myself, wrong, and major shout out to him. Again, there's nothing that I want more than for the Mets that are on this roster to succeed, and Mark Vientos, talk about running away with your opportunities. I said this verbatim to you guys constantly heading into the season. Mark needs to run away with these opportunities. The only way he's going to get consistent playing time is if he proves everyone wrong, he plays his best baseball going back to 2024, if not greater, and shows exactly why his worth is here as an everyday player instead of being a limited bench guy who has no minor league options left, is a terrible base runner, and brings little defensive value. Change the narrative, Mark. Just do it with your action, and you are going to be speaking louder than we have ever heard you without actually saying a word, okay? Now, to go beyond Brett Baty, speaking of the devil, Mark Vientos, what did he do? Of course, Mark Vientos ripped a double right away there on a sinker down and in. See ya, he turns on that bad boy. So Vientos with his second double of the season, 102 off the bat there for the New York Mets. Jared Young, who got the surprise start in the outfield for the Mets today, and him because of the injuries to Juan Soto that they're dealing with, he would get on with a walk, and then Marcus Semien would get on with a single there, so the Mets have something cooking, bases juice for Carson Bench. And what does Carson Bench do? He's behind on the swing. It's an infield dribbler to the third base side. And Matt Chapman, who's known for the defensive web gems, who's known as one of the better defenders in all of baseball. Well, Chapman is not in his prime anymore. And what we saw today, I think, was a good example of that. Bobbles a throw that he tries to rush there to first base. It is offline. It allows Bench to not only drive on a run, but a second run would come in. So 2 runs scored for the New York Mets in that play. And then Luis Torrens with another soft contact made on the ground out, and that would make it a 3-0 New York Mets lead. So Matt Chapman, who's had a frustrating start to the season, a move that I really was never a big fan of for the San Francisco Giants when they extended him, just because, you know, there's been concerns with his health and his hips over the years since he's been in Oakland, that he isn't exactly the same player. And while Chapman has his stretches of success like any other player, you know, I think what we saw today is something that I just don't see a world where that contract is going to age well for San Fran. I hope for the Giants fans and their sake I'm proven wrong, but I have not really been on the Matt Chapman train since, honestly, his days in Oakland. And that was our first couple years covering the New York Mets before he ultimately went to Toronto and then had a way up and down performance. And then now he is here, as you guys can see, in San Fran with the Giants. But the Mets get off to an early 3-0 lead. Fantastic early job by this offense after a bad start in the first inning. Lindor would strike out swinging, but on a day where Lindor provides nothing offensively, one of his worst days at the plate this season, it simply didn't matter. In the bottom of the second, Matt Chapman gets on with a single. So again, color me shocked right as I'm talking down about the guy. I'm proven wrong, at least immediately with that production. But nonetheless, Chapman didn't do anything crazy in this one. Jun-Hoo Lee, who's done really good against the New York Mets. He's batted .333 or so entering the series against the Mets, so he's done a very good job the past couple of years since signing with San Fran, but he struck out Swinney in this one. Harrison Bader grounded out, and that's always encouraging because I still have PTSD from Harrison Bader being our absolute father last year, whether it was the back-to-back big games in May where Bader had some clutch hits and also clutch defensive plays and center to help kill the Mets in that series, or when Bader was then traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, the arch nemesis of the Mets, and killed us down the stretch in 2025. It's nice to see Harrison Bader not look like a man possessed playing the Mets, at least for now. We'll see how he fares in the series finale tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, this Easter Sunday. Happy early Easter to everybody who celebrates. He will be risen indeed. Very excited to be celebrating a fantastic day with my family. And because it is Easter tomorrow, everybody, we will have coverage. It just might not be immediately after the game. There might be a slight gap before I give you guys our post-game show, but nonetheless, we will have coverage for you, I pinky promise. Thank you again for the donations, everybody. I'll get to them shortly. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know your player of the game for the New York Mets as we're breaking down their absolute blowout 9-0 victory against the San Francisco Giants, okay? 19 runs in 24, what? Did I say 22 runs in 24-hour span? If I did earlier, I apologize. It's 19, right? Because the Mets had 10 yesterday, they had 9 today. I'm trying to do my math. I'm not a mathematician. I am a schmuck, but I'm trying to add together, and I blame my sleep schedule because it's been cooked the last couple days thanks to this West Coast trip. I digress. Top of the third, Mets go down 1-2-3 between Bichette, Polanco, and Beatty. In the bottom of the third, we see Encarnacion get off with that leadoff single, but it really didn't matter because then you had Willie Adames fly out, Rafael Devers flew out, and then Heliot Ramos with the ground out into the force end. That did it for the inning. So Clay Holmes, another clean inning of work. Things we love to see. At the top of the fourth, Mark Vientos does what he has been doing every single at-bat, it feels like, and that's get on base with solid contact. This time he rips a single there that we see opposite field, and this would be his one of 2 hits opposite field today for Vientos. And how hard does he hit this one? And not too much. Again, he pokes at that cutter down and away to get right around 77-mile-per-hour contact, but it is enough. Jared Young grounds into the force out, Marcus Semien strikes out, and Benj lines out sharply to Jun-Hoo Lee. It was a nice pulled baseball by Benj, but right in the glove, sadly, of Lee. As we now get to the bottom of the fourth, another ground out for Luis Ariz, who, like I said, I don't got a lot of positive things to say about. Same can be said with Matt Chapman, who grounds out. Jun-Hoo Lee with the walk, so he gets on base. Harrison Bader called out on strikes, baby. Shout out to Clay Holmes, getting the job done against his former teammate, both with the Mets and the Yankees, if I'm not mistaken. 3 pitches and see a curveball inside. Got him looking silly. Dotted corner. Great job there by Clay. We get to the top of the fifth where Luis Torrens, who got the start over Alvarez today, which I was initially criticizing just because I really would have liked to see Alvarez in the lineup after having a hot day yesterday. Clearly, this was scheduled. I understand that. And yes, his lack of defense yesterday probably didn't benefit Alvarez to play today, but I'd imagine Alvy will be in the lineup for the series finale tomorrow against Logan Webb. we'll see how he does. We know the power is immense. I don't know how that matchup's going to look. If Webb is locked in and he can make not only Alvey, but a lot of these Mets hitters look silly. And that's more of a credit to Webb than it is to the Mets not having a good lineup. Logan Webb, when right, is one of the more nails right-handers in all the National League. And outside of the last time the Mets faced Logan Webb, he's kicked our ass for the most part. So I'm really interested to see and a little anxious to see how tomorrow's matchup is going to go. Bats have been raging hot right now. And the Mets, if they could secure 3 out of 4 in San Fran, oh baby, is that a bounce back from your series defeat there in St. Louis in what was a dramatic and really underwhelming fashion. After Torrens with the single, a Lindor ground out, setting the stage for Bo Bichette. And what does Bo do? What Bo does. He rips a single up the middle that drives on a run. That is Bichette. Another day, another RBI for Bo, who looked not only strong offensively, but defensively too, making some nice backhanded plays, throwing some absolute darts there to first to Mark Vientos, who handled them well. Bichette makes it a 4-0 ball game for them. Polanco strikes out. Like I said, Polanco didn't look good today, and I think this is in direct hand because of the fact that we have unfortunately seen a lot of stuff going on with the tendonitis, okay? I really do not think, and this is just from a fan and reporter perspective as someone who is going to be reporting at Mets games this year. My next game I'll be attending is going to be the Game 2 against the Diamondbacks. What is that? The 8th, I believe, or so? Yeah, nonetheless, what was I trying to say? You're at a complete brain fart. Oh, that sucks. You know when you have a point that you're trying to make? Polanco, there we go. Yeah, Polanco has not been a great player in his career when he's played through injury. I think specifically the 2024 season with Seattle, where he looked like a guy that was closer to a DFA candidate than someone that they want to run back. And then they run it back with him and give him third base reps to begin the season, which was nuts last year. And then he ran away with a great offensive year that we saw, leading to obviously walking and signing with the Mets. I like Polanco's ability a lot. I think when right, he's going to be such a weapon for the Mets this year. But now's the time that if he needs an IL stint, just give it to him, okay? I understand the Juan Soto circumstance might make it a little bit more difficult, but you're still in a position where if you're going to have to make that kind of move, you might as well do it now for Polanco, who's been dealing with this tendonitis and his Achilles. I don't understand how it's going to be benefiting him offensively when he has not looked good at the plate for the most part since this was announced over the past week. It's an absolute fact. I think Polanco has, 3 or 4 hits total since it was announced over the past week that the Mets have made it clear that he has tendonitis in his Achilles. So, Alex, what are you referring to in regards to Jim? If you're referring to ball cap, I'll check him out once I'm done breaking down the game and everything, but we can't do that at the moment. Love him, though. Love me some ball cap sports. Jim is a beauty. Brett Beatty gets on with a single that we saw there, which was beautifully done to Jean-Hu Lee. And then Mark Vientos does what Mark Vientos continues to do, everybody, and that is get on base this time with a big hit. Vientos with a nice single, 96 off the bat, and that would drive in Mr. Bo Bichette to give the Mets a nice commanding 5-0 lead right around halfway through in this one. As we continue on from there, we would see Tyrone Taylor come in and pinch hit for Jared Young, and oh my God, oh my goodness, oh my gracious, we're getting something big to happen. Okay, Alex, I'm going to just kick you if you continue this, my guy. So please, it's one or the other. Either you stop spamming or I kick you. You decide. And it's nothing personal. Just, again, you're ruining the flow of the chat for others. Please, you got to stop. I'm begging you. Okay, Tyrone Taylor with a big ding-dong. It's high, it's far, and it's gone. TT does something that he hasn't commonly done in his career, and that's smack a 3-run pinch hit home run. Just his 3rd pinch hit home run as a New York Met, if not in his career. 105 off the bat, roughly 420 feet. This was a splitter, dead central, right down the pipe, and that got him absolutely cooked, okay? So things that you love to see, everybody. Shout out to Tyrone Taylor making it 8-0 New York Mets lead. And the Mets won this ball game essentially as soon as the second inning was kicking in. As soon as you saw that offense begin, as we got in the second and the third, the Mets literally never looked back. And this entire one. Tyrone Taylor is not someone that I want to see starting much, if at all, this year, but something that I will say in the case of Tyrone Taylor is that if we get production like that off the bench, hell to the yeah. That's what I want to see, okay? That's exactly where his value is most important, in my opinion. That's what I love about Tyrone Taylor. His best play is when you can have him coming off the bench like that, getting a clutch hit for you off the bench, being an elite base runner, maybe being a late-game pinch runner, if not a late-game defensive replacement, something along those lines. But, again, I'm loving everything that I'm seeing right now from him. So, shout out to him. And did we take care of this schmuck in the chat? Now he did. Goodbye, Alex. It's okay. Now, as we continue on, Marcus Semien gets on with a single after the fact, and Benj would strike out swinging, but not before the Mets again go on to take an 8-0 lead. In the bottom of the fifth, we would see Clay Holmes. Again, he's cruising entering the bottom of the fifth. He gets a quick line on a Patrick Bailey, in which it was a web gem. It's not only Air Jordan, it's Air Lindor. You got Jumpman there at short with a gorgeous catch, which was Lindor that we have in the highlights that you can see beside me. And Carnacion with the ground out. Willie Adames there with a ground out too. So again, great work by Clay Holmes, who continues to cruise in this start. The offense was awesome, but Clay Holmes, I think, has to be my biggest takeaway tonight, because this is such a rarity for the Mets to get this kind of pitching performance, this quality of a pitching performance, too. I'm really encouraged by it. Torrens with a line out to begin the top of the sixth. Lindor with a fly out. Bo with a 2-out hit because Bo knows, but Polanco flies out to end the inning. In the bottom of the sixth, Devers, Ramos, and Arias, what do they all have in common? They're all down and they're out of here. Shout out Clay Holmes for more quick work. As we then get to the seventh, where we would see after it would be challenged, Brett Beatty would get on with a double there that was down the third baseline. Terrible shift by the Giants, and the Giants are just so absolute dog water with their challenges today. Seriously, they did themselves no favors whatsoever, and you can tell that Tony and this Giants staff has a lot of work that they need to do. Tyrone Taylor with one out would smoke himself a single to drive in another run. That would give the Mets a 9-0 lead in this ball game, and that's what they would go on to ultimately win by, because after the wild pitch, which gets TT a little bit farther to third base, we would see Semien get on with a walk. After the challenge again goes against, we see the Giants in favor of the New York Mets. Ben strikes out swinging because he's still completely swinging through his shoes right now, and Torrens grounds out. In the bottom of the seventh, Jean Hooley gets on with a single. Bader strikes out, and Bailey grounds out, and that does it for Clay Holmes' final line that we'll get into here in a second, everybody. But offensively for both teams, nothing else happens. In this one, we would see Tobias Myers 6 up, 6 down. New York Mets go on to win this one. Final score 9-0. And folks, let's take a moment to appreciate the dominance, the greatness, which was this Mets pitching staff. I'm going to make it very quick and easy for you guys. Clay Holmes gets a very comfortable, very easy, no hesitation grade, 9 out of 10 from your guy Wardy, okay? Clay was fantastic today. Highest grade of the season by far. How can you not give him a 9 out of 10? The only reason why it's not a 9.5 or a 10 is because I have to have some wiggle room in case Clay could give the Mets an 8 shutout outing or a complete game shutout, or, you know, knock on wood, the whole thing that starts with a no and then ends with a no. You know what I mean? So Clay Holmes did his job, to say the least. So unbelievably impressive with him. And I understand that the Giants were probably uninspired early in this game because obviously the offense was so, few and really far in between. They didn't get anything going, and they were down so early in this game, and from yesterday to today, they really got curb stomped. That's a very deflating feeling for an offense, and we know as Mets fans, it could really kill them, and fast, as to try to get any form of momentum in a game. So I think this was a perfect combination of the Mets offense pouncing early to be against the Giants and their early mentality and trying to be locked in, and also Clay Holmes taking complete and full advantage and running away with what the Giants were clearly giving them, and that was a lot of loopy swings, a very hungry team that this Mets team, and Clay Holmes in particular, just completely took advantage of. Clay Holmes with the sinker today that he sat 56% of the arsenal, sat right around 94 on the gun with. The sleeper, in which he threw 14% of the time, sat 82. Changeup 11% of the time, sat 89. Cutter, which I really like the usage of today, sat right around 88. Curveball, 8% of the usage, we saw around 82, and the four seam, which he threw the least, and that's what Clay should always be doing. No need whatsoever to be using that four seam fastball, knowing it can be unbelievably flat. He literally only threw it one time, and it was at roughly 95 miles per hour. Clay Holmes is my player of the game. I thought he was the most impressive takeaway by far, and if the Mets can get more of this, think about it. Clay Holmes is on what? A 3-year, just over $30 million contract with the New York Mets. He is quickly proving that he's one of the best bargain contracts of a starter in baseball. Really think about this. Clay Holmes had what? A 3.5-year ERA, or just under, with the Mets in 2025. That included the most durable starter the Mets had all season long, more valuable down the stretch than a David Pearson, and more consistent than anyone else, and stepped up in that start in Miami when no one else was really providing that kind of step up you needed. Clay Holmes had over 160 innings in his first season as a starter, going all the way back to 2019 in Pittsburgh. It's been that long. You fast forward 6+ years later, and Clay Holmes looks like he never skipped a beat as a starter in today's game. The only thing that is really a wrench in his game is the lack of length because of his walks. If he can limit the walk rate, which he did today, only 2 walks and only 5 guys total getting on base, he was brilliant throughout 7 innings of work. And how many pitches did Clay Holmes throw today? Oh yeah, he only threw 90. So there was a world where Clay Holmes could have won 8 straight innings for you, but the Mets decide to defer to Tobias Myers instead, which there's nothing wrong with. I love Tobias Myers. He's going to be so nails for the Mets as this continued multi-inning eater for the Mets all year long, a true swingman option, which again, very encouraging to see the type of start to the season Myers has had, a continuation really from what was a very strong spring training, okay? We all talk about Freddie Peralta in that trade, but Tobias Myers' value is immense. Let's not forget, this is the same guy that torched the Mets and won 5 rock-solid innings against the Mets in that Milwaukee Brewers wildcard series, okay? So, yes, Tobias Myers, Clay Holmes, thank you so much for stepping up this Saturday. We appreciate you. And what we also appreciate is a Mets offense that stepped up mightily. And once we were done breaking down the offense, I'll get to your donations. I'll get some more comments for each and every one of you. I'll get to all you guys. Thank you so much. It's time for a new jingle. We actually may have something in the works for another jingle. It might not be the only jingle, though. Like, I will probably still keep the OG. We just may have something new in the works this year, so that way we don't have the same thing every single time. So be on lookout. It's a work in progress at the moment, but that is a fair remark to make. And now the offense, again, a lot to talk about with the offense, okay? 12 hits. The Mets still had an expected batting average of just 236, so you could tell that this was some bad things going for the San Francisco Giants, thanks to some bad fundies, and the New York Mets just taking advantage of. Lindor, in a day where he had nothing going offensively, literally nothing going at all, he still, again, wasn't a problem. Going 0 for 5, batting a .156 now with a .653 OPS, and now you see Bo Bichette, he's starting to really heat up, and I know you might say heat up, he's only batting .220 with a .500 OPS, yes, but Bo Bichette now has RBIs in multiple straight games. He's really started to come together with his quality at-bats on this road trip. You can tell that he's not pressing as hard and really doing more of the things that he should be doing, okay? And where's the lobster? We will have the lobster back, I promise. It's just the lobster died out last year when the Mets weren't giving us wins with the lobster. So it's like, oh, good things come to an end, and that was one of them in that circumstance last year. And we will, I know the jingle's a trademark. I'm just saying we may do more than just our traditional jingle this year. We're allowed to diversify and do multiple things. Again, at the end of the day, there used to be a time on WardyNYM where that jingle didn't exist, and we used to have different music that we used to play. The OGs know on the platform. We used to do the OG Mr. Mets song as really our celebration song too. There was many different things we used to do. It just depends on how long of a follower have you been on here, as we have now entered our 6th season covering the New York Mets. I'm a sicko. I can't believe I've been doing it this long already. Holy crap. Okay, going on now. Bo Bichette looking good after Bo had his multi-hit game. RBI and a run scored. Jorge Polanco, again, I'm not liking what I'm seeing from Jorge, and I know it's a him because of his injury. I want to see Polanco put on the IL. I know it may not happen, but I personally want it to happen. I want him to rest up. He's batting a .143 with a .487 OPS. Brett Beatty, 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored, including the opposite field double, .242 average, .606 OPS, and brilliant work in right field today. Mark Vientos, who was fantastic at first and fantastic with his at-bats, 3 for 5, 2 runs scored, the double and the RBI, .471 average, just under 1,300 OPS. I'm going to go on a limb and say, yeah, Mark Vientos has locked the F in. Jared Young getting the start in left field today. 0 for 1 with the run scored, 200 average, .633 OPS. Tyrone Taylor, big day for TT coming in as the pinch hitter with a 3-run ding-dong. A nice opposite field RBI. Tyrone Taylor with a 4 RBI day. Apparently more than Pete Alonso this year, or if not about the same. I saw Alonso make a tumble out for space today for the Orioles. He made the play, but it was pretty funny to see for the times that we've joked about the Pete stuff there with the lack of defense, or, you know, the lack of traditional defense for that matter there. And I know we say that as we've had Jared Young, Jorge Polanco, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos as our first base options. I completely understand where it's like, you have no right to talk. I get it. I just found it funny because it genuinely was when I saw the clip. I digress. Tyrone Taylor, 167 average, 584 OPS, more productive today than he was in any of his starts this year. Mendy, it's almost like that's how you need to be playing Tyrone Taylor. Don't need TT starting unless it absolutely is warranted because of injuries. let's just go ahead and let's have ourselves TT in there late in game when it is actually most warranted. That is what I think should be happening. You guys let me know if you feel different or if you feel the same. Marcus Semien, another strong day for Marcus. Big game yesterday. His best game as a Met with 3 hits, including a dead center dinged on today. Semien, 2 for 3 with a run scored and a walk, 258 average, 738 OPS. See how quickly and quietly Marcus Semien went from being like a man who couldn't hit a beach ball, looking like David Spade and Benchwarmers, hacking one, if you know, you know, to now looking like, again, Marcus Semien. If Marcus Semien's final line this year as a batting average and OPS was just under 260 and just under 740, every Mets fan would take that. Every Mets fan would take that, okay? That's such an upgrade over what he's done the past couple years for the Rangers. Just from a statistical point alone, like not getting into the specifics on home runs and RBIs, and Marcus Semien is closer to a 260 hitter this year than he is the Mendoza line, and an OPS that is comfortably over 700. That would have a lot of Mets fans happy as your 7 or number 8 hitter probably throughout the majority of the season. Like, that is the kind of production that you're happy to get from a guy like Marcus Semien. Again, you're not expecting him to light the world on fire. You're not expecting him to carry games day in and day out. He just needs to be a guy as part of this group with a lot of guys. Whereas when he was on the Texas Rangers, same thing you could say with Luis Robert with the White Sox. What do these players have in common then? They were viewed as the guy for those respective teams, right? Robert was the guy in Chicago for the White Sox, where they were so dependent on him to have success. Semien was the guy. He was the captain. He was the leader of the Texas Rangers. Okay, there's a reason why he got that 7-year, $180 million contract or so. Okay, and that's not just because he helped them win the World Series, but it's when you look at the value that Semien has as a player. Not only is the personality great, the leadership qualities are great, but at this point in his career, we just need him to go out there and not be a liability. That's really all it comes down to. As long as he's not a liability, I think that's a win-win trade for the Mets and for the Texas Rangers. Nimmo, I think, is going to have a great offensive year. I think the defense is going to continue to be suspect with someone like him. And again, if Nimmo isn't traded, the Mets can't give runway to guys like Beatty and Benj, etc. in the outfield, which even though Benj has clearly looked overmatched to begin the season, it thankfully really hasn't been much to the Mets' detriment to this point. They're allowing a leash for these young players to run away with that position, and that's encouraging because at the end of the day, if Benj doesn't run away with it, if Beatty doesn't run away with it, it won't be long before the Mets consider other options, including potentially Nick Morabito is off to a raging hot start in AAA Syracuse. It does not feel like it'll be long before he's called up. Ryan Clifford is making strides defensively in the outfield, even though I think he's still going to be best at first base / DH, which I think will happen this year. Feel pretty confident in that. But it's A.J. Ewing. Again, if A.J. Ewing high flies the way that he did last year, like he did in spring training, he is going to force himself on this Mets team this year. It is a literal fact. A literal fact. So, you guys let me know, out of all the outfielders that the Mets currently have in their farm, who stands out the most to you and why is someone who can maybe run away with things if the Mets position themselves where they're going to give someone not named Carson Bench an opportunity this year. Again, I'm not saying that they should, and I hope Bench gets massive leash and massive runway. It's not that I'm opposed to that. I'm just saying if there is a world where this year where Bench really doesn't work out, unfortunately, and the Mets want to consider their next best prospect options, let me know who exactly you think that would be, because we're talking separate from the Tommy Phams, the Christian Paches, the MJ Melendezes, the veterans, in which we kind of know what we're getting there. I'm seeing a lot of AJ Ewing in the chat. I'm not surprised by that at all. Carson Bench batting a .111 with a 422 OPS. Luis Torrens, always productive, always good, always just consistent. 1 for 4 with the RBI, ground out a run, score 300, average 600 OPS for one of the better backup catchers in Major League Baseball. Morabito is sneaky good. You know, I think Morabito is going to get an opportunity sooner than later this year where Mets fans are like, oh shit, this kid ain't bad. You know, Morabito kind of has went a little under the radar because of guys like Benj and also not only him, but an Ewing. And Morabito played for Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic, which was really cool. He had a very strong spring. He was the Mets minor league player of the year a couple of years ago. And he's just very good, especially at the top of the lineup as a plate setter, hitting for high contact, going gap to gap, and using that elite speed to leg singles into doubles like the Jet Williams and A.J. Ewing way. There's a lot of similarities to a degree with those player profiles from Morabito to Ewing to Jet, which made biting the bullet of losing Jet a bit easier for the Mets, and knowing that they still have multiple viable options between Morabito, Ewing. You also look at Eli Serrano the third, who had another very good game in AA today. You look at Ryan Clifford, if he's going to give you a level of value in the corner outfield. You look at Chris Suero, who can give you a level in the corner outfield. Before you know it, you realize the Mets actually have a nice, healthy group of young, high-rising talents offensively that can impact them in the outfield. So that's why Luis Robert needs to perform this year. If he does not perform this year, the Mets are not going to just say, oh, we're going to buy in and give you another $20 million next year. No, they'll opt into the club option, which says we're going to kick you out and buy you out for the remainder of your contract. So Robert has a lot to prove this year. Hopefully he continues to do that when given opportunity. Got the off day today, but that's perfectly fine. And this is exactly why I'm never even going to bother to check it, because why do we have to have a 10-year-old in the chat talking like this about a friend of mine? Like, again, why are you the way that you are? Like, holy shit. My God, someone take this kid's phone away. Jesus Christ. I apologize. And I also apologize for saying my Lord's name in vain. Look, he's bringing out the worst in me. You hate to see it. So all I got to say is W. Stearns for our farm. Not only W. Stearns, massive W to everyone else when you look at player development. Andy Green, who the Mets were initially considering for either bench, if not manager, when he initially was interviewing with the Mets a couple years ago. You look at Chris Gross, VP of Scouting, elite talent coming from the Houston Astros. I always reference Chris Gross when we talk about fantastic picks and development of talent, because Chris Gross, during his tenure as the VP of Scouting for the Houston Astros, like their lead in that department over a decade span, was number one in baseball, as the Houston Astros had more drafted talent make their major league debut with the club than any other team during his tenure there. The worst team in baseball, 30th on that list, and that sample size of right around a decade span was the New York Mets. So every time that I look at player development for the Mets positively, between draft picks over the past 2 years, as well as, just sneaky guys are developing right in the farm, it's hard to not look and turn at Chris Gross. It's hard to not look and turn at Andy Green, because those are the pivotal hires by David Stearns that have now positioned the Mets well to have the type of deep farm that they have, both pitching-wise and now offensively, that we have seen over the past, really, year and a half. It's been really, really nice to see. But what's also really nice to see is how generous you guys have been this evening. So let's get to your donations, and then we will cut things off for our replay viewers and continue on the live show, everybody. Thank you so much for smashing that like and subscribe on your way. And if you haven't already, make sure you do exactly that, folks. And we are going to be doing a lot of fun giveaways and a lot of fun shows. We're going to be doing some call-in shows this year as well. We're going to be hopefully getting back in a groove of those sooner than later. The schedule's what throws a massive wrench into it, just because got dad duty, got to wake up very early in the morning, so sometimes, especially these West Coast trips, make it difficult to try to do. But once the Mets are back home and kind of in a groove of things, I am hoping to do a call-in show with you guys soon. If you guys would like to call in, ask your opinions about the Mets a couple weeks into the season, and we kind of go on from there. So starting with Steve, great member with $5 Hall, says, since JD Martinez was hired, we talked about that one already, so thank you so much for it. We also see Scott, great member with the $5 Hall with the Clay Holmes. Yep, I agree. He's my player of the game. Mad Team Parents, great member with $5 Hall, states, I was hoping after getting used to starting last year that would only help Holmes this year. So far, so good. Absolutely, my friend. So far, so great indeed. Kenny Reese, thank you for the $3 Hall. I love you, brother. I appreciate that. Dave, my guy, nice jersey. I know. I wonder who got it for me. In case you guys don't know, Dave, who's just this amazing supporter of mine. I love him in more ways than one. He's been tremendous in so many different ways. Check out our guy, Dave, in the chat. Great member, great friend of mine. One of the many things he's gifted my way between merchandise and just things to put on my wall, which you guys will see shortly once I get this set up, because I moved into a new spot. Thanks to you guys, literally. I have no idea how much I love you guys. Without you, I would not at all be in the position I am in life. Seriously, there isn't a day that I don't wake up unbelievably humbled and grateful to be doing what I'm doing, to be a fan and now a reporter, to be doing this for a living. It's all I can say is thank you. So seriously. But look at this. We're rocking the orange Mike Piazza jersey. And a big reason as to why we're rocking the Piazza jersey tonight is because I'm like, we're playing San Fran. We might as well rock some San Fran-related colors, right? Because when we think of the Mets coloration, you think obviously of the New York Baseball Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers and that meshing coming together. It's also great, too, because if I'm not mistaken, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't like the official flag for Queens, orange and blue as well? I'm almost certain that's the case, but just correct me again. I don't reside in New York. My dad's from Corona, but I'm almost certain that I remember seeing the flag have exactly that, which is really cool. But again, let me know if I'm right or wrong about that. If I'm wrong, not a problem. Let's see. What were those Giants jerseys tonight? I don't even know how to properly What, the Gigantes, I believe? Something along those lines? Okay. New York State flag is orange and blue. That's what I'm thinking then. Okay. Thank you. That makes a lot more sense. So you can also tie that in as well. Very cool stuff nonetheless. But let's get to some more donations. Ethan, great member. How we doing? Malvar with the $10 haul says, Wardy, according to Grok, the last time a New York Mets starting pitcher threw 7 scoreless innings was Kodai Senga in April of last year against the A's. Holy shit, I remember that game now. Wow. So it was a hot minute ago. Literally almost a calendar year ago was the last time we saw a Mets starter go 7 shutout innings. And that isn't proof in the pudding on how brutal last year was. I don't know what is. Thank you so much for that donation. I appreciate that. Great stuff. Shout out Grok on X. We'll take that. That's using AI effectively right there. Sean with the $5 holla says, what do you mean I've stood by him when y'all turn your backs? Are you referring to Vientos, Sean? If so, then major kudos to you. I 100% commend you. It was never about turning it back on Vientos for me, as it just was. He had a brutal year last year. The Mets did not position themselves to help him succeed either. I heavily have stated that for months on end. And the Mets shopped him like crazy all offseason. So, of course, all I did was talk about trading Vientos. That way, it could be a need-for-need trade where the Mets get something for him. And then you see, obviously, what you have in the player that they get in return. But now Mark, having not been traded, running away with his opportunity, that's what makes the situation 10 times better because he deserves everything that's coming his way right now. 11, great member of 8 months. Breakout. Oracle Park shows what this team can do. 100%. Mad Team Parents to Hall. Wasn't it sweet to see Helsley blow a game today? I didn't see it. I got to check my favorite team in the American League, that being the Baltimore Orioles, that some fans can't comprehend. Yes, I am an O's fan for the AL. No, I'm not a diehard fan for them. I'm only a diehard for the Mets. But the O's are my excuse, especially to be more locked in with the American League. They were my team that I picked a number of years ago, and it goes back to Gunnar Henderson's rookie season is where it really kicked in. But it was Adley Rutschman when he made his debut and onward. But in Gunnar's rookie year, I attended a game at Camden Yards with my brother and his wife. Shout out to them because at the time, they weren't too far from Baltimore, and it was an electric game. I think it was 2023 because the Mets were going nowhere that year. I believe it was 2023, and it was an awesome experience for my first time at Camden Yards. I got a Gunnar Henderson jersey that day, and he had an absolute tater. It was like a 3-run dawn against the Kansas City Royals to lead them to victory. So since that point on, I've always had a soft spot for Baltimore, and I'm happy that guys like Pete and Helsley are on there because, again, I don't wish Helsley hell. It sucks how much the guy had the yips when he was in Queens. So naturally, I have like a bit of a vendetta against him. Pete, I really don't have that. I will definitely check out Helsley getting rocked. I did not see that. Elf with the $2 holla, thank you so much. He says, you have come such a long way. Appreciate your content. Watching from New Mexico. Oh, my God. That's very kind of you, my friend. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate the donation and for the kind words. Thank you. Thank you. We have definitely come a long way since the start of this. No doubt about it. But the consistent aspect of how far we have came over the past north of 6 years has been your continued support watching live on a replay. Without you guys, none of this is possible. And that's an understatement. Elf with the $5 haul says, do you think JD is already having an impact on Mark Vientos? I think that's inevitably happening. Yes, I'm sure they've been talking plenty. Mad Team Parent says, Beatty can be in the New York Mets version of Ben Zobrist. That's if everything goes right. Yeah, that would be amazing considering the Mets swung a miss on trying to bring in Ben Zobrist and allowed Daniel Murphy to walk, and then Murphy became our father for the next number of years there with the Washington Nationals. Shout out Murph from the platform. I hope he is doing well. Where do you need a Wardy jersey? Free marketing. I know. I have a Wardy shirt that my guy Dave has sent my way, actually. I don't have a Wardy jersey, but I'm sure I'll do something along those lines eventually. Yeah, I have a shirt that says WardyNYM with the number 30 in reference to my dog Michael Conforto from years ago. I still rock every now and then. But yeah, we'll have Wardy merch this year because, everybody, in case you don't know, we have our amazing, yes, you guessed it, second annual Wardy Day. In case you guys and gals don't know, let me enlighten you briefly because we just had more tickets purchased. And now, everybody, out of the available tickets that we have, we already have at least 14 claimed that have either been fully purchased or have been claimed or set aside for them, okay? 14. And for context, everybody, this is a maximum of a 40 ticket seating, okay? We are selling out fast. We've only been promoting this for not even a full calendar week. and we will likely be sold out by the time we reach a calendar month from now. So if you guys want to hang out with your guy Wardy for the first time ever, maybe, or maybe it's the second time ever, if you hung out with me at Wardy Day last year to our sold out crowd in which everyone wanted to return for a second time around. That's why we have people running it back, including Dave Kaplitz in the chat, who's an absolute beauty. We had a lot of fun with him last year. You guys, June 12th, Mets versus Braves. It's a Friday night blackout night at Citi Field. Fingers crossed, it's gorgeous weather there, given the fact that it's a nice June night game. You're going to hang out with your guy Wardy. You're going to get exclusive perks, including the following. Pre-game on-field access for a group photo op with yours truly. You're going to get an $18 food and drink voucher that you can use pretty much anywhere in the stadium. You're going to get open bars. So if you guys enjoy alcoholic beverages, you'll be able to pound drinks pre-game all the way until they stop serving. That's a lot of time to have a lot of drinks and have a great time. And just a couple of drinks are literally going to pay for your ticket, because a normal drink at Citi Field is north of $20 per. So do the math. If you have a couple of brewskis at the game, taking public transit home, you can have yourself a nice time, to say the least, and get animated with your guy Wardy, because I'm going to be having a lot of fun with you guys too. You're also going to get exclusive merchandise solely to people that attend this event. It is the first of its kind. You guys have asked me years for merchandise. We're finally doing it, but we're starting with only people who attend Wardy Day. We will do merch at some point this year after the fact, but if you guys want to be a part of the first group of people to ever have Wardy merch that's separate from the podcast I did with Believe Network a couple years ago when we had like the schmuck shirts and stuff, because this is a completely different thing. It's all just from yours truly. If you guys love the idea of hanging out with your guy Wardy at a baseball game and a left field lounge, exclusive lounge, meaning you have booth seating. It's not typical standardized seating. You can move around in your seats. You can basically jump up and down, do whatever the hell you want for the entire ball game, and no one's going to be complaining about it. So it's going to be awesome, fun, niche Mets community. If you want to hang out, get involved, get your tickets today. They're linked down below in the description at Event Create, and then I'll have the specific link down below there for you guys to check out. Get tickets while they last. Thank you so much for everyone checking it out, and I really do appreciate it. Now, Mets fans, let's get into this, and let's talk more ball on all things amazing, and let's cut things off now to our replay viewers. So to everyone watching live, we'll continue to answer comments, questions, and concerns for what you guys are going to see there for the next 10 minutes. To everyone watching on replay, this is where we're cutting things off. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.